Hi, everyone. I'm John Coghlan. I'm on the community relations team at GitLab, and I'm here with Bethan Vincent, and we're going to talk about virtual meetups. Bethan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks John for having me. So I'm Bethan Vincent, I'm the marketing director at NetSales, which is a product development consultancy based in York here in the UK, hence my accent. And I'm involved in a number of different communities in tech and in marketing. And before the pandemic, I used to do a lot of going to events and traveling to go to events, which was really nice, but obviously we've had to flip to this online world. So I'm a member of Women in Tech York. I also run the Product Hunt Yorkshire meetups as well.
Awesome. And I know when we were talking recently, you've done some virtual events and you found them to be, pretty valuable to your community. Is that right?
Definitely, both as an attendee and an organizer. And I think what I've really loved about the recent period is that I've managed to go to more events than I ever was able to before, because I don't have to travel. I can just sit with my pajama bottoms on in the evening and meet people from all around the world in a way I never could before. So for me personally, this has actually been really exciting. So I recently went to a Women in Tech Nottingham event, which is a city 2 hours from me, which I would never have been able to go to had I had to go in person. So it's been really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've noticed that too with our events, like the global participation, regardless of which GitLab group is organizing the event, is really exciting to see. And I think, definitely one of the things that's special about the virtual meetups. Is there anything else that you found that's been kind of, either driving some of the success of those events or just interesting things about the events that you think are advantages over in-person events?
Definitely. So one of the things for me is being able to watch the videos of the events after, because I can almost do my homework on the content again and review parts that maybe I didn't quite get properly or listen to. And actually some of the events I've been to virtually have had closed captions, which has been super important, both from obviously a diversity and inclusion point of view, but actually from a comprehensibility, because they were able to provide a transcript afterwards as well. And again, if you learn in slightly different style, maybe in-person presentations aren't your thing, to have that as well, I think makes these events a lot more inclusive actually.
That's great. I love that. I think when I think about the inclusion aspect, a lot of times I'm thinking about, kind of what you mentioned earlier, which is, without the travel, it becomes easier for folks to participate. So if you're a parent and you normally would have to go home, after work to take care of your family, now people might be able to find time to tune in while they're at home. And also, kind of what you're saying is actually aspects of diversity that I hadn't really thought of. So thanks for pointing those out. I'm curious, is there anything that you would recommend for folks who are organizing the meetups to keep in mind when they're planning the events to make them successful, both for the organizers and for the community members who are participating?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've got to be conscious of the fact these events can't be read only. And I mean read only in the sense that you're just sitting there consuming the content as an attendee. When you go to an event or a conference, part of the joy of it is actually the interactions, the chats you have at coffee time and all of that. And if you put on your event in the way that you just expect people to kind of be there and just listen, and that's all they're going to do, that's the only interaction they're going to have, I think that does a disservice to your event, but also you're not replicating the good parts of in-person events as well. So really think about how you can foster interaction, whether it's through breakout rooms on Zoom. That's a really useful feature actually. Or just if you're running a slightly smaller event, with 20 people or less, consider having introductions at the beginning. That's something that I've been doing in events I've been running or part of or kind of leading on. And actually to understand who else is in the room is a really great thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, that could be something that would be cool to carry over to in-person events too, right? Like giving people more space to, to kind of share who they are and why they're coming to the event. So yeah, something to keep in mind as we hopefully in the future get back to personal events. Maybe we can take some of what we've learned with these virtual events and use that to make in-person events better. Okay, last couple of questions. What's your platform of choice? You mentioned that you like the breakout room feature in Zoom. Is that kind of set Zoom apart?
Yeah, I think Zoom is the market leader for a number of reasons. I think it's very accessible for people. That's another thing to think about. I think working in tech, we all are very au fait with the platforms. You know, we find them very easy to use. But if you're trying to include people from outside the kind of tech sphere, you've got to understand that all of this is so new. You know, I've been using Zoom for about 4 years now, but my mum has just started to use it in the last 3 months. And she's found it very intuitive, but some of the other platforms she's really struggled with. So part of inclusivity is making sure your tool set is inclusive as well. So that's just something to be aware of. And there are alternatives other than Zoom. It's just, in my experience, it has been the best for the type of events I'm running.
Yeah, with GitLab, it's been fun, or interesting with our virtual events, because at GitLab, we're such power users of Zoom. For the first few events, when we were talking about going into breakout groups and things, we didn't provide a ton of instructions on how that kind of flow would work. And we found that participation would drop off a lot when we kind of moved into those. And so after the first, event or two, we started providing a lot more detailed instructions on how to use chat, how to use breakout rooms, and some of the other features that we use to kind of increase the networking during our events. And we found that the more you kind of tell people how to use things and encourage that use the right way, the better participation we got. So I definitely echo, regardless of which tool you're using, make sure that you share with folks how you want them to use that, and give them information on how to do that so that they can participate pretty easily.
Yeah, and I think another thing to that as well is, obviously in in-person events, you're much more likely to have a code of conduct. But I think it's just as important to have one that governs, the use of social spaces online. And actually, you've got to protect people. Obviously, we know from social media and everything that happens on there that speech is very harmful. And you do need to think about how you protect people in coming to your events, regardless of the mechanism, whether they're doing it online or virtually or in person or whatever.
Yep, that's so important. Thanks for pointing that out. So any parting advice before I let you go?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're apprehensive of giving an online event, a meetup, a go, just try it. I think you'll find that, especially if you've got a long running event series, your audience are probably, almost dying to come back and engage with people. And if you remember that engagement is the core of what makes a good event, you can do things quite innovatively as well. So don't just think you have to run an event and it's, have some speakers, have some presentations, and then maybe have some time for a chat afterwards. You could do ice-breaking games. You could do all the stuff we might do actually in meetings, with new teams and things like that. You can bring that into events, and that's a really fun way of getting people engaged, making sure, it's interactive content at the end of the day. And also it's just fun. It's like an interesting use of the technology.
That's great advice. Thanks. And thanks for your time today, Bethan. And
Pleasure.
very grateful to have you in our community and sharing your insights. And for folks that are watching the Zoom video, I'll put links to all of our meetup planning resources in the description of this video. So check those out if you want to get started planning virtual events for your community. Thanks, Bethan.